same cold darkness that envelops me in its oily, vomitous embrace every single ticking second that my earthly husk clings to life. Welcome to EdgeLords, where we dissect, discuss, and maybe even destroy anyone that winds up in our crosshairs. I am, of course, Ashen, the Vioblader. And I'll be your host for this evening's episode. And it's this very episode where we'll be peeling back the skin and digging into the muscle and bone of our first potential inductee into the prestigious and incredibly jagged halls of the Edgeatorium. Yes, this is the sanctum where our lords or lordesses will reside if we find them worthy of the honor. But to be perfectly frank, the lighting is bad, there's a weird smell that we can't pinpoint, and the toilets are clogged with death. But nevertheless, it's a sacred lair that has generations of hallowed antiquity behind it. So without further stalling, let us narrow the eye of judgment upon the form of Spawn. Ah yes, Spawn. One of the most sacred pillars of all things Edge. He has his roots in comic books, but has managed to snake and twist his chains into many facets of reality. Important as he might be, however, we must deeply probe into the very fiber of his being, who he was, what he can do, and where he finds himself today. Does merely uttering Spawn's name still send a shock to the soul, a chilling of the blood, the hardening of... Does Spawn still have the edge? Birthed deep in the mind caves of the nefarious madman whose imagination is akin to a bottomless pit of despair and rage, this vile conjurer, known only as
Todd McFarlane,
created Spawn in 1992, in which he paved the way for similar edgelords to rise from the inky pits of oblivion. Spawn started his life as Al Simmons, a highly decorated soldier toiling under the whips of his masters in the US government, as he was a honed machine of war that was soon promoted into elite Black Ops unit that undertook much wet work. But not those wet works. Simmons' impeccable skills were put to good use, but he also took many innocent lives during his blood-soaked tenure within the unit. Check marking a box right here. Yes, innocent lives taken during backstory. Good stuff there. Upon questioning his most recent orders, Al's commanding officer, Jason Wynn, ordered his death by the hand of none other than Al's comrade-at-arms, Jim Stinson, better known as Chapel. Let's take a look at Chapel real. Wow. Yeah, that's the Lord right there. Whew. Gives me the chills. He doesn't need his own episode. He's in. Yeah, look at those biceps. In the Edgeatorium, you go there, first inductee, awesome. Okay, back to Spawn. Chapel carried out his mission and burned his friend to death in a swirling inferno of flame. But due to his past sins, the man known as Al Simmons was reborn in the darkness of hell as the Hell Spawn, or just Spawn for short. For this to have even been possible, Simmons made a deal with
Malbogia, Malabog, and
some gross monster Todd McFarlane drew, with the bargaining chip being Al's very soul. Yes, he'll lead the armies of hell as long as he can see his wife, Wanda, one more time. But in a classic bit that's just so the devil, Spawn was indeed sent back to Earth to be reunited with his wife, but wasn't told that 5 whole years had passed. Imagine his dismay. his agony to see his wife had moved on and fallen in love with Al's best friend, Terry Fitzgerald, and even had a daughter together. Oof, rough.
Oh, police. Don't tell me you're getting all bent out of shape over a woman. Want a lick? It's Rocky Road.
Now stuck on Earth with little to no purpose, Al Simmons stalks the dark alleyways of New York, defending the defenseless from all manner of criminal scum and the combined might of warriors from both heaven and hell. And that, my brethren, is just the cool, jagged tip of the iceberg where comes the legend that is Spawn. Ah, so good. This is classic stuff here, people. Mr. Simmons, your gorgeons. Mwah! Being a Hellspawn affords the user numerous and deadly ways to incapacitate, eviscerate, and devastate any force that gets in their way. And geez, am I excited to get to the meat and bones of what Spawn here can do. While I have my Vioblades here and they're good for all manner of maiming and slashing, the soldiers of hell are equipped with the living suits of armor, which can produce a variety of spikes, protrusions, chains, blades, all of which are connected to the mind of the wearer. Now, Spawn's powers have fluctuated through the years or decades, yes, decades since its creation. So, for simplicity's sake, let's just take a look at normal, fresh in the box, vanilla standard edition Spawn, if you don't mind. If he is going hand to hand with any adversary, he's never defenseless, as that suit can always provide, be it with the chains or spikes or the various necroplasm-based powers that are at his command. In general, Spawn has superhuman strength, speed, and even durability. He can be torn asunder, but can still regenerate almost anything. Hell, I think some man-bat guy sliced his face with a ninja star, and Spawn was just fine after that. But he had to wear a shoelace for a bit. My mind's foggy here, not gonna lie. Aside from his suit's natural abilities, such as the cape and chains, Spawn has his own eternal battery that is finite, but nevertheless is still a well of power he can draw from and can do almost anything with. He can fire shards of dark necroplasmic energy. He can fashion a mythical axe out of nothing called agony. He can teleport, breathe fire, make portals, talk to animals, resurrect the dead, read minds, fly. If you can think it up, Spawn can do it. Which is probably just Mr. McFarlane wanting his cool hero to be able to do cool anythings with few restrictions and not having to think about it harder. But there you go. Also, have to mention, this early form of Spawn had a counter, which was a fuel gauge on his powers, and it started at 9999, which is cool. I like an edgelord who knows when and when not to push it. Push it into the place you have to go sometimes. That place where it gets harder and harder to come back from. You know the place, yeah. Anyway, there's no limit to the mystical and otherworldly shit Spawn can do, but we can't discount the things he learned whilst human. Again, in an act of sheer, I need to make this guy certifiable grade A beefy badass, Lord Todd made sure to document all the fighting styles that Al Simmons is a master of, including, but not limited to,
Judo, Jiu-Jitsu, Karate, Kung Fu, Jeet Kune Do, Aikido, Taekwondo, Boxing, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Hapkido, Muay Thai, Ninjutsu,
and clearly the most ancient and deadly of them all,
American Karate.
Not to mention, he is also a master marksman with all types of bang-bangs, and yeah, studied the blade as well. Spawn is a one-man army, can bring people back from the dead, and can converse with cats. Need I go on about how OP he is? Spawn, your skills are impressive. We've dissected the Gorgons and explored his powers, but it's not just those two ingredients that make a good edgelord. Now, Spawn was birthed in the darkest and edgiest time period of them all, the early 90s, where sons and daughters of the Edge first began to rise from the muck en masse. Spawn was among the first of this new wave, but that does not automatically make him the best or garner a spot in the hallowed halls of the Edgeatorium. No, that's a spot purely for my boo chapel. To truly weigh the scales, we must examine where Spawn rests today in the minds and hearts of the pulsating mass of maggots known as pop culture fans. For all intents and purposes, Spawn reached his peak around 1997, where he starred in his own major motion picture, a milestone few others can claim. Unfortunately, due to the meddling of vacuous suit-wearing zombies, this cinematic adventure was a sacrilege against Spawn and his true nature, as it was pecked on the cheek by the kiss of death, PG-13.
Every time you go out there, you come back a little bit more dead inside.
Oh, come on, you scream like a girl. Do it like this.
Spawn's foray into celluloid was a watered-down, diluted shadow of his former self, featuring toned-down gore, subject matter, and language, and did the film no favors. Although it should be said that even if those roadblocks were not there, the movie was still laughable tripe, and ever since then, Spawn's name never carried the gravitas it once did. His comic book sales went down, as did the critical reception to many of his failed attempts at video games and edgelords bread and butter. If you can make it there, your soul might truly be damned to obscurity. Despite all these setbacks, however, Spawn's first window into our minds, comic books, still carry his name to this day. New stories about his wrath and rage are being produced, with a continuing line of comics being printed after so many other series, sub-series, limited series, and spin-offs have come and gone. And that has to account for something. The action figures that Spawn and his cast of heroes and villains popularized went on to become an empire in their own right, and again are still active. But it must be mentioned that these are not nearly as popular or as visible as they were a number of years ago. The most endearing and telling monolith to Spawn's legacy, however, is that in 2018, 26 years after his inception, Spawn is getting another crack at the world of cinema, as notable actor and badass himself, Jamie Foxx, has agreed to star in a new Spawn film produced by Horror Factory Blumhouse. This is to be directed by none other than McFarlane himself. It is set to be a dark, psychological tale that does not focus primarily on Spawn, but the horrors he finds himself surrounded by. An intriguing premise, to be sure, and with a hard R rating, this will surely do more justice than his flabby limp attempt back in 1997. So no, friends, Spawn is not forgotten. Faded from his glory days in the 90s, to be sure, yet he still endures like a glowing red ember of rage that never truly went out. So with this in mind, we salute you, Al Simmons, the Hell Spawn, and allow you in a place in the Edgeatorium where your effigy will reside until time immemorial. So, dear edgelords and ladies, that concludes our tale today. And if you know of any other deserting creature or warrior whom you feel be worthy to sit upon a throne of blood and bone within our unholy walls, then
Write a comment below or send an electronic piece of mail to mattmcmuscles@gmail.com.
I am your humble Ashen, the Vioblader. and I bid you all a cold, unfeeling night, being suckled at the teat of despair. See you all next time!